Good morning. The main attraction will be here shortly. Thank you for the invitation to celebrate Military Spouse Day with you. It's an honor to be part of National Military Appreciation Month. During my time as Secretary of Defense, I've had the opportunity to travel around the country to many military facilities, including just last week, Fort Bliss, Texas. I make it a point to meet and talk with families of those deployed, and I'm always tremendously impressed by your sacrifice, resilience, and fortitude. I also learn a lot from you. For example, it was at a meeting with spouses in Fort Hood that I heard military families would like Montgomery GI Bill education benefits to be transferable to a spouse or child. That proposal next appeared in the President's State of the Union address. That's how much we respect what you have to say. I understand that about 1,100 spouses of deployed or soon-to-be deployed service members are with us here on the South Lawn. Our nation owes a great deal to what I call the power behind the power, the families of all of those who are serving. While our men and women in uniform may be called to pay the highest price, their families, and particularly their spouses, make a considerable sacrifice as well. Each spouse entrusts to the nation his or her most treasured possession, often for a long period of time. It is spouses who bear the burden each day and who keep families on track while loved ones are away. They take up responsibilities that would be easier if their spouses were there. Settling into a new house, driving the kids to school or Little League, doing the laundry, and yet they endure separations and relocations regularly and bear each burden with grace and patience. All the spouses here today, including the 6 recipients of the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, have had a profound impact on the lives of those who serve. They have initiated a number of programs, which include creating newsletters to update the families of deployed personnel, providing free diapers, formula, clothing, and toys to military families, manning an online network for parents of West Point cadets, collecting and distributing more than 1 million phone cards to service members, sending more than 5 tons of supplies to Iraqi and Afghan children, and establishing a program to educate and train the spouses and caregivers of war-wounded troops. Your endeavors do not get the attention they deserve, but I can tell you that every one of your efforts matters. You do not do this only for your loved ones who are serving and sacrificing in distant lands, but for your entire community and for our country. Your dedication, compassion, and selflessness play a vital role in uplifting spirits, and our nation is deeply in your debt. In closing, I'm awed by your countless hours of service and humbled by your extraordinary devotion. It is the greatest honor of my life to lead our incredible men and women in uniform. Please thank your spouses for their service, and thank you for all you do to make their service possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by today's recipients of the Presidential Volunteer Service Award, Ellen Patton, Caprice James, Ramona Vasquez, Bob Davison, Don Lee Sheets, and Colleen Safran. Please remain standing for our national anthem performed by Phil Vassar.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Y'all go ahead and sit down. Thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate you and your band members being here today. Thanks for entertaining us here on the south lawn of the White House. We are so glad you have come. We're honoring 6 recipients of the President's Volunteer Service Awards. And as we do so, we celebrate the contributions and achievements of our military spouses all across the country. Laura sends her very best. She's heading down to Texas for. She left behind a DVD with Steve Martin. Said you might want to watch this before you head down there yourself. But she sends her love, and I'm very fortunate to have married such a kind and decent, compassionate woman. I appreciate the Secretary of Defense, Secretary Bob Gates is with us. I'm proud you're here, Mr. Secretary. Secretary Pete Guerin of the United States Army is with us. Secretary Don Winter, U.S. Navy, and his wife Linda have joined us. Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Hoss Cartwright, General Hoss Cartwright, and his wife Sandy have joined us. General Dick Cody, Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, and his wife Vicki is with us. Thanks for coming, General Cody. Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Skip Bowen. Members of the United States Congress, John Carter, Susan Davis, Dutch Rupersberger. We're so honored you all have come to pay tribute to the military spouses. I'm really pleased that Mary Jo Myers, who's a member of the President's Council on Service and Civic Participation, is with us. She's the wife of General Richard Myers, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Appreciate the Winters families joining us here today. But most of all, thank you all for coming. So here's why this event's happening. 24 years ago, President Ronald Reagan signed a proclamation recognizing Military Spouses Day. And my own judgment is that we need to recognize military spouses every day. But this is a time of year that we honor the wives and husbands who support our men and women in uniform. And today it's my honor to welcome you here to the White House. I can't think of a better place in which to say thanks. Whether you're signed up for military life at the recruiting station or at the altar rail, each person's a volunteer. And when you married your soldier, sailor, airman, marine, or Coast Guardsman, you became more than just part of a family. you became part of our nation's military family. It's not an easy life being in the military, particularly when we're at war, and I understand that. For many of you, it means packing up your belongings and moving on short notice. I suspect a lot of you have been on the move much more than you thought you would be on the move. For others, it means living in a foreign land, which can be exciting, but it also means you're far away from your extended family, and that's hard. And for many of you, it means missing a spouse as he or she serves on the front lines in this battle to secure our country and to spread freedom for the sake of peace. Being left behind when a loved one goes to war has got to be one of the hardest jobs in the United States military. I've talked to a lot of folks who've been in the theater, and as well as spouses, and it is clear to me the harder job in many ways is to be the person at home taking care of the kids and having sleepless nights as you pray for safe return. And carrying out the burdens, you're serving our country, and it's noble service, and it's necessary service. And the United States of America owes you a huge debt of gratitude. And so on behalf of our people, thank you for what you're doing. One of the things I have learned in 7.5 years as the president is as you've served our country, you also serve each other. I've spent a lot of time visiting our military bases here in America and across the world, and it's been a great experience. What I found is that there's always a close-knit community, people who are sharing a special bond, and people who take time to look out after people. It's been an amazing experience to see the fabric of our military communities firsthand. And today we're going to honor 6 military spouses who've done a little extra to serve their communities and serve the nation. First, we honor an Army wife named Colleen Saffron. In May 2004, Colleen's husband, Terry, who's with us, was severely injured while serving in Iraq. And Colleen learned firsthand the challenges facing the families of wounded warriors. So last year, she helped found Operation Life Transformed, which is a nonprofit that helps family members and caregivers of our wounded troops get the training they need so they can work from home while caring for their loved ones. To date, Operation Life Transformed has helped more than 30 spouses and caregivers get the funding and support they need for new and flexible careers. And one of those she helps is Maria Baez, and she was the mom whose Marine son was paralyzed by a sniper bullet in Fallujah. Here's what Maria said about Operation Life Transformed. I can't thank you enough for helping me and trusting me, and also for not giving up. And so, Colleen, America can't thank you enough to help our wounded troops and their families, and we're so pleased to have you here at the White House. Folks, stand up. Thank you. Good job. Today we honor a Coast Guard wife named Ramona Varquez. Several years ago, while stationed in Miami, Ramona got to know an enlisted Coast Guardsman named Nate Bruckenthal. Then in 2004, she learned that Nate had been killed by a suicide bomber in Iraq, the first Coast Guardsman killed in military action since the Vietnam War. Nate left behind a wife who was expecting their first child. And when she gave birth to a daughter named Harper, Nate's dad was quoted as saying, "When one door closes, another door opens." He inspired Ramona to start Nate's Open Door Baby Pantry, a program that provides diapers and formula and clothing and toys and furniture to military members and civilians at no charge. The motto of this organization is unconditional love and support. And so, Ramona, America's proud of you. I'm proud of you. I have a feeling that Nate is looking down on great pride today as well. Thank you for joining us. Today we honor Air Force husband Bob Davison. Since his wife Lisa joined the Air Force nearly 12 years ago, Bob has lived on bases across the country and across the world. And everywhere Bob goes, he's made a difference. When Lisa and Bob were stationed at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, Bob raised $10,000 for the local Fisher House. When they were stationed at Lakenheath, England, Bob established the Airmen's Food Pantry, raising nearly $120,000 in donations to provide short-term food aid for our military families facing financial difficulties. When they were stationed at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, Bob began volunteering with Operation Homefront, which is a national nonprofit that assists our military families in need. He's continued working with Operation Homefront at his wife's current duty station at Columbus Air Force Base in Mississippi. To date, he's raised donations worth more than $350,000 for the organization, including more than 1 million phone card minutes for distribution to our service members. Lisa Davison is a leader in the United States Air Force. Bob Davison is a leader in America's Armies of Compassion, and I welcome him today to the White House. Good job. Thanks for serving. We honor Navy wife Ellen Patton. Ellen's husband Mark is a captain in the Navy, and her son Eric is a cadet at West Point. She loves our military, she loves her boys, and she loves to sew. So she put these two loves together, or three loves together, and began to volunteer with Quilts of Valor Foundation. The organization has taken on a mission to provide wartime quilts to every single service member wounded in the war against these extremists. So far, she has made and sent more than 80 quilts to veterans and wounded troops. She also tracked down many of the sailors injured during the attack of the USS Colt and made quilts for them as well. Ellen says that when she sees troops coming home with terrible wounds, she wants to provide them with some healing and knowing that they are appreciated. So Ellen, we thank you for what you do to wrap our soldiers in quilts made with such loving hands, and welcome to the White House. We honor Army Reserve wife Dawn Lee Sheets. In 2006, Dawn Lee's husband, Major Larry Sheets, deployed to Iraq with the U.S. Army Reserve. When he arrived, Larry saw terrible conditions of young Iraqi children and told Dawn Lee about it. So Dawn Lee started Operation Schoolhouse, a project to collect school supplies and clothing and toys for poor children in Afghanistan and Iraq. During an 8-month span, she collected 5 tons of supplies which were packaged and shipped to the front lines and distributed by our troops. Here's something even more impressive. She's doing it while fighting breast cancer. And so Dawn Lee, your services changed young lives in Iraq and Afghanistan. Your services inspired the whole nation. We all pray for a speedy recovery, and we honor you here at the White House. We honor a Marine wife named Caprice James. Caprice has been married for 2 years to Second Lieutenant Rodney James. She's living at her first duty station, the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms. She's been a force of nature since she's arrived. When she moved on the base, Caprice immediately began volunteering with the American Red Cross. She's assisted with more than 100 Red Cross communications messages that have provided our deployed service members with notification or assistance in emergency situations. Caprice developed the first year-round youth leadership program on base to help young people learn professional leadership and interviewing skills. She raised funds for a program that will allow young people to assemble 500 disaster kits for enlisted service members and their families. She developed a special newsletter for distribution to 250 families of deployed personnel. And on top of all that, she serves as a cheerleading coach for the children of Marines and civilian personnel on base. So today, Caprice, we honor you. We honor your enthusiasm. We admire your dedication to the Corps, and we thank you for the example you've set. 6 individuals we honor here today have earned the respect of our nation. They represent thousands of other military spouses who make significant contributions to our country. So we honor 6, but we say thanks to millions. Our country appreciates the service and devotion. Our country owes you something else in return. One way we can repay the service of our spouses is by making the burdens of military life a little easier. So this year I signed into law a change to the Family and Medical Leave Act, which allows a spouse, parent, child, or next of kin to take up to 26 work weeks of leave to care for a service member with a serious injury or illness who is undergoing therapy or treatment. I hope that helps. Where we find substandard housing, we'll take care of it. We want to make sure that the sacrifice you're making is one that at least you understand that the government appreciates what you're doing. I sent up some legislation. I certainly hope Congress moves on it quickly that will make it easier to expand access to child care, create new authorities to appoint qualified spouses into civil service jobs, provide educational opportunities and job training for our military spouses, and finally, allow our troops to transfer their unused education benefits to spouses or children. This legislation is moving. I hope to be able to sign it as quickly as possible. It is the absolute right thing to do. It should send a clear message that we care for you, we respect you, and we love you. Thanks for coming to the White House. May God bless you, your families, your loved ones, and the United States of America.